Um, I'm reading through the comments, the discussion notes, and I'm seeing over and over and over again the definition that ghosts are spirits of the dead. Whether it I don't think anyone has said like why they aren't going on to wherever their final destination, but spirits of people who have lived and are now dead. And uh, many people have been saying, I don't know if they're real or if they're not real. Some people are saying, I don't believe in them. Um, there's no evidence of their existence, even if they do exist, some people are saying. Um, Again, spirits of dead people, people, yep, it's like uh, some people have said something closer to a couple of people said that that other things can be ghostly experiences or just other sort of influences from the past, and then they take on like a the form of like a person. It's like something spiritual that is coming from the past and trying to your influence people where they currently are. The idea of a ghost being trapped in some way that it can't move on is repeated a couple of times. Okay. And these ideas, oh, and then a couple of people comment on how whether or not they're real, people are influenced by them because they believe they're real, right? These um, phenomena happen whether or not ghosts are there. And so either the ghosts are used to explain the phenomena or the phenomena happen and people can't prove that they're not ghosts. So even if you don't believe in them, they affect the way people act. Okay. That's my bit of explanation to go with what some people have been saying here, right? There's people believe enough, there's an effect, whether or not they're real, right? It's like the conspiracy theory about Shakespeare, right? Whether or not it's true, some people are going to be suspicious. Okay. So that, right, why do I bring up ghosts? I thought we were talking about Shakespeare. Well, the simple fact of the matter is that when Shakespeare is writing plays and when they're performing plays, about 400 years ago, um, ghosts are often characters in plays. They make a lot of appearances in plays. Some of you, I think most of you, would have would have read Macbeth last year, and there's ghosts in Macbeth. There are no ghosts in like Romeo and Juliet, but the idea of there are always people dying in Shakespeare's plays and people sort of coming back. Usually, when the people come back, they've died somewhere else, somewhere before. Um, like in this case. Now, ghosts in the theater um, of Shakespeare's time, ghosts are like they're unpredictable, they're powerful, scary, all these different words here. But it is not really a question of whether ghosts exist in that time. People kind of assume they did in some form or another. It's almost like if you go to a movie now today where there are uh, ghosts, you are accepting the fact that in this world, in the movie, there are ghosts, regardless of whether or not you think they are in the real world. Similar back then, except the dominant belief was that yeah, ghosts exist, and there's very specific theological Christian, because that's where he's writing Judeo-Christian, very specific theological notions about ghosts that kind of actually become a little important here. That's why I bring it up. Now, we incidentally nowadays, people say, well, yeah, we don't believe in ghosts, so we don't have that. Well, we have all sorts of stuff that do the same effect, do the same thing as ghosts, including ghosts in all of our, you know, literature, movies which are the 21st century version of plays. Okay. So these are some of the things that we see in our movies, and we still find them interesting. They're still cool and powerful, and they're big. You know, they move the plot. They might be the whole reason for the movie. Okay. In that day and age, this idea of the theological idea that goes with ghosts that we kind of want to get a handle on. We don't have to become biblical scholars, although, just a side note, if you're going to study Shakespeare the rest of your life, like some of us do, it really, really would be a good idea to kind of become a biblical scholar. You don't have to believe it unless you want to. I'm not here to say that, but if you want to understand Shakespeare well, you really kind of have to understand the Bible well. Mostly Old Testament stuff, but some New Testament stuff too. Anyway, in that day and age, it was accepted that ghosts were dead people that came back, or dead people that couldn't move on. They might stay, they might not be able to move on because they have sin that they have to sort of get rid of before they can move on, which is the notion of purgatory. But it's a little more complex because purgatory technically isn't on earth. But it's that idea that the spirit hasn't moved on, but it's a dead person. The problem is that the devil's pretty smart. The devil's not a dead person. The devil is the devil is like and I'll use this term, hopefully it doesn't offend anyone. The devil is a little god. He's not a person that died and is coming back in any way. He's a separate spiritual being, but he knows what he's doing. He can create something that looks like a dead person and then come back and try and manipulate you and deceive you. And if your dad just happened to die recently, which is in the play, okay, I'm not talking about you. Sorry if that happened and you get a message from your dad, the devil might easily make something look like your dad and come back and give you a message, right? And that is the theology that we want to have a handle on when we start reading this, okay? In order to know whether a ghost was good or bad, you needed some education. Hello, kitty. You needed some education. You needed to be trained by scholars or um, priests, the church, right? Where do you get that education? University. Because a university is it's always run by the church. So if you go off to college and you come home, you automatically know more about the theology of ghosts than the guys who stayed home, who didn't go to college. Okay? In this play, it kind of becomes, it's at the very least a side issue, but it kind of becomes important, and it doesn't really get resolved well. Okay? And that's part of the drama of the play, is that it doesn't really get resolved well. So let's look closely and see what we're dealing with here. Yes, the idea that the devil can deceive you and wants to deceive you and will use a face that you know, will use a face that's appealing. These are all theological concepts that Shakespeare's audience knew, that Shakespeare knew, and that the characters in Shakespeare's plays would know. Okay? That's why I say you don't have to like or believe the Bible, but if you know the Bible, you'll know Shakespeare a lot better. Okay? So, it says here, at the beginning of the play, there are some people that see a ghost, and they need some help figuring out if it's a good ghost or a bad ghost. And at the bottom note here, it says the uneducated soldiers, that's who sees the ghost, they bring a university man named Horatio to guard duty to help understand the ghost that they've been seeing. Okay? And Horatio is a friend of Hamlet. You'll see soon. The ghost is Hamlet's dead father. you'll see soon. Okay, so that's how this, it's an important concept right off the bat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the background, and then I'll tell you, and I have 9 minutes to talk through some stuff and then make it clear what your assignment is. And your assignment, I'll just tell you right now, just a reminder, it's in the notes here before. What I want you to do is watch the first 2 video clips. Okay? We aren't going to have time to do it in class today, whether that's good or bad. But over the next week, before you come back, I want you to watch both of those clips. They're 10 minutes and 17 minutes about. What I really want you to do is watch them twice so that you are familiar with the way these next few notes that I'm going to talk about fit into the beginning of the story. Okay? So, the background information. Okay? This is sort of incidental. The story is an old story. I've already mentioned that. It comes from Denmark. The original story talks about a guy named Amleth, not Hamlet, but anyway. And in that story, Amleth ends up being the king in the end. Okay. In Shakespeare's version of the story, it's still in Denmark, and it's a tragedy of Hamlet not becoming successful at dealing with his father's death and eventually becoming the king. Instead, it shows his life get destroyed. Why is it destroyed? As with any tragedy, there's a flaw that drives the tragic hero into the ground. Either figuratively, a person doesn't have to die in a tragedy. They can just be brought low, as they say. Or literally into the ground, it can literally kill them. Okay, in this particular case, Hamlet dies. Oh, spoiler alert. And let me tell you right now, since everybody knows the story, his audience knows the story, I'm going to spoil it from beginning to end all the time. I'm going to tell you who's dying. I'm going to tell you what's going on, because that's the way we understand it. Okay? This isn't supposed to be like a mystery play. It is, we want to know what's going on from beginning to end. So, I still have a couple minutes left. Son of Hamlet. Hamlet, the guy on the screen right now, in the videos that you watch, the video movie, this is young Hamlet. His father is Hamlet Sr. Father used to be the king. He died. Okay? Hamlet was off attending college with his friend Horatio, but he came home to attend the funeral, to bury his father. And his father died. He was bit by a snake, they say. And Hamlet came home, but Hamlet's very depressed, okay, because his father is dead, and Hamlet's actually suicidal over this. His father is dead, which is bad enough, but then his mother doesn't seem to care enough that Hamlet is dead. Mom doesn't seem to care enough that dad is dead. As a matter of fact, mom just went ahead and married dad's brother. And now dad's brother is the king. Uncle Dad and Auntie Mom, right? That's who they are now. And that bothers Hamlet. And that's part of his depression, his anger with the world. Now, think of love for a minute. He loves his father. His father is dead, but he loves him too much. The tragic flaw is too much of a good thing. He loves his father so much that his father is like a saint. Well, his father wasn't exactly a saint. He loves his father so much that his mother should still just be committed to my dead father. Well, mom is sort of moving on, in part because that's practical for the royalty. Okay, uncle, who is my dad's brother, he took over the kingdom. He loves this. He doesn't miss my dad at all. Well, they're at the risk of war right now. We'll hear about that. And the old man who was working with the king when the king was alive, his brother, it makes sense for him to take over as the king at this point. Okay, sort of like vice president, right? Now, just to clarify, people say, well, Hamlet should be the king because his father did. Yeah, sort of. It is not a law. It is not something. You can argue it. Not you. You can't argue it. But you, being Hamlet, you can argue that you should be the king, that your uncle shouldn't be. But there better be some good reason for that, because the rules of succession aren't law. They're traditions that keep the royalty in the family unless there's a good reason for it to not be in the family. And they keep it generally father to son or father to child, at least in the case of Queen Elizabeth, unless there's a reason not to. And sometimes something like Hamlet is too young, or the brother has been right there alongside the father the whole time, okay, might make normal sense for the father, the brother of the king, to become the king. So what does not bother Hamlet in the least is that he's not the king. Doesn't care about that. What bothers him is that nobody seems to care that his father is dead. Okay? So make sure you've got that in your head, because I don't want you to be confused by what he's upset about. He doesn't really want to be the king. He just wants people to respect and love his father as much as him. However, his respect and love for his father is crazy overboard. So much so that it's going to destroy him because it's a tragic flaw. Got it? Now, as the play begins, there's a ghost haunting the castle. Okay, the country is on the verge of war with Norway, and there's a ghost haunting the castle, and it appears to be the dead king, and he's walking around in his armor. It kind of makes sense. If the dead king is haunting the castle, maybe he was anxious about his country going to war, and when he died, it's like, I can't leave yet. My country's going to war. And he's walking around in his armor. Marcellus and Bernardo are a couple of guards, and in the first scene, what you see is they bring Horatio out there into the guard post to talk to the ghost, because Horatio is a college student. Horatio is a friend of Hamlet. He's educated. He'll know what to do about this ghost. He'll be able to tell if this is a good ghost or a bad ghost, right? Now, this comment, I'm going to zip through this quickly because it's sort of funny, but I don't have time for it. The book, normally I say the book is not the movie, so you can't just watch the movie and not read the book, okay? You can't just watch the movie now and not read the book too, not read the play. But we will be watching the movie, most of the movie, because Shakespeare actually wrote movies of the day. He expected them to be produced and watched. So it's okay to do that for studying Shakespeare. It's kind of expected in my book. It's kind of expected in my head. So this first assignment, it says here you're going to watch it and come back. No, you're going to watch it and you're going to go. And it says watch the first clip. Then at the end, it says watch the second clip too. Okay, these two clips are identified by, it says Hamlet I.1 or I.2. Act 1, Scene 1, Act 1, Scene 2. And what I want you to do is, and there's subtitles. It's all in Shakespeare's language, but you can read, you can watch, you can get a feel for what's going on in the first two scenes. I want that feeling in your head when we start digging into the play and going into it in depth on Monday, a week from today. So between now and then, watch those first two parts twice. And you can watch you can watch the whole dang thing if you want. That'd be fine, because then you'll know more as we read. But the assignment is watch those first two twice. These last few scenes here on the slides, They're just pictures of the Globe Theater, and there's actually some more pictures. I think that's still an active link. Anyway, this is where they're performing. We'll talk more about that as time goes on.